All right, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to do some practice questions together of the sorts of questions that can appear on the exam. Then afterwards, I will take your questions. And that's what today's going to be. Again, reminder for Friday, I will send around an assignment for you to help you practice some. Then Monday, we come back here to take the test. Bring your device. You are required to take it here unless you have made other arrangements with me. I will also be reviewing attendance on that day. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. All right, so today's session number is 529067. 529067. And let's start. Let's get some questions. Let's get some practice. All right, so we'll have a section, much like 3.1, on identifying positive, negative, and neutral terms. Remember, the principle here is we're trying to find terms and definitions that do not bias the conversation in some way. As the old joke goes, I am firm, you are obstinate, he is pig-headed, despite the fact that sort of objectively, all three of these are basically the same trait. So a police officer, positive, neutral, or negative term? Good. Yes, it's a neutral term. Why? Well, because that's just the name of the job. That's minimally descriptive. It doesn't have any implicit commentary. If there are more laudatory ways one could praise somebody, suggesting that you really think highly of this job. There are some real pejorative ways you can describe people having this job, but this is just sort of minimally descriptive. Newport News' finest. Good. And that, of course, is the overly laudatory way of describing a police officer. And if I put something up there like the fuzz or the pigs or something like that, you would hopefully recognize that as a negative way of describing a police officer. And compared to these two, I think you can see how even a word like cop is certainly more colloquial. It's not as negative as saying something like, the pigs or something, but it's not very formal. All right, an egghead. Again, easy. Yeah, this is negative. We're reducing a human being to the supposed shape of their head. Yeah, this is, if you want to call someone an academic, you can describe them by their job. If you want to say something super praiseworthy like genius or something like that, you can use those positive categories. Freedom fighters. Good. Yeah, freedom fighters. That's a really positive term. Who in our culture doesn't think freedom is a good thing? What do we call freedom fighters if we don't like them? If we don't like the group? We call them terrorists. or at least, rebels, rebel scum, something like that. What would we call them if we wanted to try to be neutral? Maybe the name of the group, maybe soldiers, maybe something like that. But actually, with this kind of group, it's actually very difficult to describe it in neutral terms. Because, whatever you say will probably reveal whether you think they're fundamentally, the heroes of the story or the villains of the story. If you call them rebels, you're suggesting that, they're on the wrong side of things. Tax refund adjustment. I won't put this one on the test. This one's kind of a joke. It's from an old episode of The Simpsons. The proper question that you actually should ask is, well, what exactly is it describing? If I'm adjusting your tax refund down and hiding a tax increase, then this is a very positive way to describe what I'm actually doing. It could be neutral if it's just something less sinister. It's from an old episode of The Simpsons, where ironically Lisa Simpson is trying to fix some budget problems left by President Trump. This episode aired 15 years ago. Think about that a little bit. All right. So one section will be about the tones of words, and it looks like most of you are doing well on that, so I'm pleased by that. Now we're going to talk about definitions. Remember, we're talking specifically about lexical definitions here. The goal is to identify the most serious problem with the conceptual definition. Remember, when we're saying that we're evaluating the definition, we are giving an evaluation of the second term, because that's the definition. The first term is the word we are defining. Again, our categories of critique will be too broad, too narrow, circular, too vague, and wrong tone. Again, we're judging the adequacy of the second term or expression as a substitute or definition for the first. I find that some people who struggle with this, for some reason, no matter how many times I say it, they forget we're talking about the second term, not the first term. Professor means teacher. I don't know why it just decides occasionally to not give us the chart for the answer. All right, well, the biggest single problem is that teacher is a very broad category. There are lots and lots of teachers, like K through 12 teachers, who are not professors. Yes, teaching is one thing that we do, but it's not the only thing, or even arguably the main thing that a professor does. So teacher is a much bigger category than professor. Redskins player, or I suppose I need to change this to Washington team player, means lazy bum. After so many losing seasons, perhaps it's true. Good, yeah, this is a tone problem. We have this shift from, sort of title of the team and player to this harsh commentary. And yeah, this is a strong shift, a strong and blatant shift in tone. So yeah. What is the president? Well, of course, we will define the president as one who presides. One who presides. Good, yeah, this is way too circular. If you don't know what a president does, just throwing in the word presides, which is the root word to the word president, probably won't be very helpful. Did you all know that the president presides over the country? That's one way of thinking about it. Lie means false statement. Good. Yeah, there's lots and lots of false statements that aren't lies. Any honestly mistaken claim, getting a test question wrong, the weatherman getting the weather wrong for tomorrow, incorrect predictions. These are all false statements that are presumably not lies. Lies have to have sort of an intentional, need to be intentionally false, at least. And that is the sort of flagrant problem with calling lies merely false statements. Lie means slander. Yes, slander is a narrower category of lie. So slander is specifically a kind of personally damaging lie that legally it has to cost you money. Not all lies are slander. So, for example, if your roommate or significant other puts on an outfit and says, "How do I look in this?" and you immediately say, "Oh, that looks great," when it's really kind of that. These are what we sometimes call little white lies. Is that lie slander? No, that's not slander. There's lots of lies that are told that are not slander. Slander is a kind of personally damaging lie, and therefore it is a much narrower category. It's much more severe. On this one, I would probably also accept wrong tone because lie is kind of a neutral term. Slander is a much more negative tone. Because that kind of lie described as slander is a much more serious thing. Okay, good. All right, so we will have a section on analytic, synthetic, self-contradictory. Remember, analytic means that denying the claim is self-contradictory or that the claim is included in the meaning of the subject term. Self-contradictory claims are claims that are internally inconsistent or self-refuting, and synthetic claims are claims that are neither analytically true nor self-contradictory. These are claims that make a coherent claim that goes beyond the meaning of the terms. A triangle has three sides: analytic, synthetic, self-contradictory. Good. Yes, all mathematical truths are analytic. We discussed this. It's part of how we define triangles. That bachelor is married. Watch out for that guy. Good. That's self-contradictory. If you know what the idea of a bachelor is, bachelors are not married. Unless what you're claiming is that bachelor, that's not really a bachelor, that's someone pretending to be a bachelor. That bachelor is ugly. Good. That's synthetic. Excellent. All bachelors either are or are not messy. Okay, now watch out for this one. This one is analytically true. And it's analytically true, not because of the meanings of the words bachelors and messy, but because of the meanings of the other words in the sentence. Anything with the pattern, all subject either is or is not trait, anything with that pattern is analytically true because of the way the words all and either are or not works. So it's analytically true, but if you thought this wasn't analytic, you were probably fixating on the wrong words. All right, there will be a section on a priori and a posteriori. Again, we will be asking you to categorize and distinguish between terms categorizing truth claims based upon how the claims would be proven or justified or disproven. A priori claims are claims that are provable apart from the sense experience, and this includes all definitions. People are sometimes confused. If something is potentially provable both ways, that means it's a priori, because anything provable both ways is provable apart from sense experience, and that is the rarer, harder trait to get. A posteriori claims are claims that need sense experience to demonstrate their truthfulness or their falsity. So a priori claims are any claims that are provable apart from the sense experience. A posteriori claims are claims that need sense experience, require sense experience to demonstrate their truthfulness or their falsity. All bachelors are unmarried. Good. Yeah, this is, again, if you understand what the term bachelor means, it means unmarried man. Therefore, it is noble a priori. All you have to do is understand the definition. All swans are white. All right, that claim is a posteriori and probably false. Water boils at 90 degrees centigrade on that 10,000-foot mountain. Good, that's a posteriori. The only way to, conceptually, it should happen that way, but the only way to prove it is by going up on that particular mountain and trying to boil water. Water boils at 100 degrees centigrade at sea level. Good, yes, that's a priori, as we've discussed. That's literally how you define the boiling point of water according to the centigrade scale. Everything red is colored. Good, that's a priori. Another way of saying this sentence would be to say everything that's red is the color red. And that is noble a priori. All right, and then there will be a section that might require some understanding of definitions. I might ask you the meanings of these terms, a priori, a posteriori. I might ask you to define a fallacy. This is not the same as just, as it's been in the exercises, that's not just the identify the fallacy. I might ask you to define the fallacy. I might ask you the definitions of synthetic, analytic, and contradictory. And I might ask you the definitions of pragmatism and positivism. So we'll get at least something from each of those sections. All right, which term refers to the view that if there is no way to test a statement, then it is meaningless? Which term refers to the view that if there is no way to test a statement, then that statement isn't true nor false, but meaningless? That is the positivism, as 53% of you remember. All right, so if you got that one wrong, make sure you memorize these terms before Monday. Which term refers to claims that are internally incoherent? Good. Yeah, that's self-contradictory. Which fallacy works by illegitimately narrowing the possibilities to two options? Which fallacy is sort of defined by illegitimately narrowing the possibilities to only two options? Good. Yes, that is the black and white fallacy. Very good. Which term refers to the view that if the truth of a claim could make no practical difference, then that claim is meaningless? Good. Yes, that's pragmatism. Very good. All right, and then there will be a fallacy section. And again, the idea here is to identify the sort of most specific, most paradigmatic fallacy relevant to the argument from the multiple choices offered. All right, based on the arguments I've presented, it is evident that it is morally wrong to use animals for food or clothing. But wait, you're wearing a leather jacket and you have a roast beef sandwich in your hand. How can you say that using animals for food and clothing is wrong? Which fallacy is committed? That is the ad hominem fallacy, where Bill's response there isn't to address the claim that using animals for food or clothing is wrong, but instead to change the topic to sort of the strange behavior that Peter is engaging in. Ignorance is where we move from the claim that an argument is unresolved or an issue is unresolved, therefore we should prefer my view. Circular is where the conclusion just restates the premises in some way. And pro-con is where I just give you a one-sided account where I list things that are either pros and say, therefore, this is a good thing, or I just list cons and say, therefore, it's a bad thing, and I leave out other important matters. So this is ad hominem. Either we must pass my health care bill, or we must burn senior citizens' homes to the ground. Yes, so this is how the black and white fallacy works. Obviously there are lots of ways we could do healthcare. despite the way our culture pretends that there's only like two. There's like 50 ways we could do healthcare. And here we're just saying, let's either do it my way or here's something ridiculous that nobody would do. Straw man actually here is a pretty good answer, so I probably would not include both those on the list because it's pretty unlikely that anybody is really proposing that we burn senior citizens' homes to the ground. Most people think Fight Club is the best movie ever, and so should you. Yeah, that's classic appeal to the crowd. Silverman is showing iRobot tomorrow night. I always knew he had to be a cyborg. No fallacy detected. All right. Reread this again. What is the claim here? Because Silverman is showing a movie called I, Robot, the person has misinterpreted the situation, thinking that this is somehow Silverman's autobiography, including I'm a cyborg. That's an ambiguous reading of the sentence. There's no claim that I've become a cyborg because I'm showing this. Yeah, there's really no causation claim at all, so it shouldn't be false cause. So this is what ambiguity looks like, and people often miss the ambiguous ones. I strongly recommend rereading things multiple times to see if there's like two ways somebody could misunderstand this. This also isn't a straw man. Straw man is where you misrepresent somebody else's viewpoint and then criticize it. There's nothing in here that's anything like a straw man fallacy. After 20 years of experimentation, no one has proven that pot is harmful, so it must be safe. By the way, good luck with this whole cannabis legalization. That's not going to be good for your generation. Not saying that it shouldn't be legal. I'm saying it's not safe just because it's legal. Just like nicotine wasn't safe because it was legal. A lot of people died young. Excellent, excellent. That's exactly right. This is the pattern of ignorance. No, but we don't know. Something hasn't been proven. We don't know. Let's just assume. Let's just assume my view is correct. You shouldn't vote for him. Only a commie would vote for him. All right, now opposition is the better answer here, and here's why. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong that there is, some stereotyping going on, but opposition, the pattern works exactly like this. A member of a group would do something. We don't like the member of the group. We don't like people in that group. Therefore, we should go out and do the exact opposite. So this is the exact pattern of opposition. Stereotyping usually is a little more like this. We're going to meet a member of group X. A few people I met from group X have a particular trait. Therefore, this member will have that trait too. All right. Well, that is what I prepared. I intentionally left some time left over here. We've got 15 minutes or so. What do you need to know? Yes, sir. Yes. Yes. Actually, no, that's not true. And the reason it's not true is because, maybe you weren't here when we talked about this one. Scientifically, here's a weird thing. Have you ever thought it was strange that in Celsius, water freezes at exactly 0 and boils at exactly 100? What a remarkable coincidence, right? No, it's how the scale is set up. So whatever temperature it happened to boil at, they were going to call it 100 degrees. So you didn't have to test that. And as a contrast, that other one, that 90-degree one, on that 10,000 foot now. So again, if you don't remember that lecture from Science Class,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe you could say 212 Fahrenheit. That would be
That's right. So Fahrenheit isn't defined by boiling and freezing point of water, which is why it has those less than 2 numbers. So for Fahrenheit, that would have been a posterior order. But for Celsius, because that's exactly how the scale is defined, it's not pure. So yeah, one of the reasons why Ginsburg likes to give a lot of exercises where there are two that sound very similar like that, but they have different answers. But good to ask that question. Anything from the last 2.5 weeks of lectures is fair game here. And this is the last time you will get to ask me something directly about this, because Friday I will not be here, and I will send instead a practice exercise for you. Sure. Wrong tone. So remember, for wrong tone, we've already given 3 categories of tones in general. Wrong tone is where you take one from one of the 3 tones and you define it using one of the other 2 tones in sort of a very obvious way. And for this to be the right answer, it's going to be not subtle. It's going to be something like police officer means pig, or again, Redskins player means can't catch a damn thing, or something like that. Too vague. Vague's harder. Vague is where it's just unclear how these 2 terms relate altogether. So it's where one of the 2 terms is just not well defined. So goodness means being itself. Okay, maybe. I mean, that's actually a medieval philosophical claim, so I'm not just making this up. That is kind of a vague claim, unless you are highly trained in sort of Platonic metaphysics. It's a very vague claim, and who the hell knows what it means. Yes, sir. Yes. Genetic fallacy is where I try to claim your belief is wrong, but the evidence I give for claiming your belief is wrong has nothing to do with the truth or falsity of the belief, but instead I tell a story about how you came to that conclusion or why you hold that belief. So, so if I say, well, you only hold that belief because you're white. Well, maybe the belief's true or maybe it's false, but I've just changed the subject to the fact that you're white, and somehow this disproves your belief. And this is called the genetic fallacy. In the book, a lot of the examples about religion commit the genetic fallacy, where they say, well, you're Catholic and therefore believe in God, but you just believe that because that's how you were brought up. Well, the statement might be true that that's how you were brought up, and that might be why you believe it, but that isn't evidence against the belief. To give evidence against the belief, I have to say something like, evil exists, a good God wouldn't allow evil to exist, therefore God doesn't exist. That's evidence. That's what a real argument against the existence of God sounds like. Me telling stories about your personal psychology, that's got nothing to do with the issue at hand. So genetic is always when we talk about, we change the subject from, is this claim true or false, to some story about why somebody holds the belief. And so here's one of the ways we know that this is a fallacy. We can come up with stories about why people hold all sorts of things that are probably true. So here, you all believe that men and women are equal. but you believe this because you're in an egalitarian society that indoctrinates you with this from when you were very young. Therefore, the belief is false. You see that it's probably true. Most people in our society probably believe that, and we're largely shaped by this early inculcation of the value. But that's not any evidence against the value. This is something that's almost certainly true. But so whenever you change the story from whether or not this claim is true to you hold this claim because you've already committed a genetic fallacy, no matter what the because is. Anything else? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Sure. So genetic is a story about why you hold the belief. Stereotype is more the prediction that anybody in this group will hold this belief. And yeah, sometimes there's more than one thing wrong with an argument. So you're right. There is an association between the two. On the actual test, I try hard to have like one be a substantially better answer than the others. And what makes it the better answer is that it fits the pattern. So if something is about why you hold the belief, even if it could also be stereotype, the right answer is genetic. Stereotype, sort of paradigmatically, is the assumption that because the prediction that somebody holds this group identity, therefore they're going to hold this belief, or have this trait, But yes, we live in a horrible world where more than one thing can be wrong with an argument. Yes, ma'am.
Just to clarify, for the exam, it's multiple choice question.
Yes.
And so is it going to be hard to discern which one is which for fallacies?
That will not be my intention, but I can't promise. I mean, for somebody, some people do have a hard. Some people think that it's hard to distinguish, but it's definitely not my intention. So here is what should help you. What should help you is go through each of the fallacies and ask, let's return to the initial learning of the fallacies. What is the key trait that makes the fallacy, and not another one? So, the first time you hear it, it sounds kind of obvious. And then we do a bunch of examples, and sometimes that makes it a little less obvious. So then you go back and you use sort of those two pieces of knowledge together. And I think if you return to those initial, what makes it that specific fallacy, I think that will help you answer these well. In general, people have done well on the fallacy section of this test. How are we doing on time? Is it time? 5-6 minutes left. Are you in another philosophy class where you coming across constructivism and expressivism? Yeah. Ask me that after class. I will torture the rest of the class with that. Okay. But a fair question. Won't be on the text. I'll put it to you. I try to include both names if I've introduced you to both names in this class. So yes, besides the point is also the fallacy of irrelevance. Black and white is also called false dilemma. Ad hoc is also called false cause. So I try to remember to provide both labels, so that, to minimize, confusion. All right, I think that's about it. Good luck. I will see you Monday. You don't have to be here on Friday, but look for the exercise I will send around. And don't forget, there is a tutor-led review tomorrow night at 9 p.m. I've already sent you around the link just before class. Very good. Good luck.